Boom! Today, have we got a podcast for you? I'm going to be honest with you, it's a little bit personal, and I feel like I'm going to have to be, no, I don't even feel like I'm going to have to be, I know I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable. So to be really transparent, I'm feeling a little anxious.
This podcast then is for you.
True.
What a great topic that we're going to cover
yeah,
today.
I'm feeling a little bit like, whoo. But I did make a promise to my Ultimate You group that I was going to share something that I've recently been through and how I overcame it and how I'm still overcoming it because it's still not over. So maybe you've been struggling right now with overwhelm. Maybe you've had some unexpected news and it took you off the Richter scale. Maybe you've had a meeting with the boss and you're waiting for a result. Maybe there's been some family conflict, or I don't know, maybe there's been lots of stuff. Give us some like
any news. Maybe you've heard some worrying news, or somebody has said that they need to talk to you about something, but they don't tell you. Like your friends do that to you all the time, or parents do that. You need to come over, we need to sit and have a chat. And in your head, you're just going around and around all the scenarios that it could be.
And maybe like your kids' parents have called you in for a meeting, or maybe your brother, your sister, or your family have just gone, we need to catch up, we need to discuss this.
We need to sit down and have a conversation about is like the worst thing that a parent can ever say, because you're like, oh my God, what did I do? What did they find out?
So today's episode is for all of those people right now that have been like hit in the eyeball, something that's really challenged them, and it's almost like they shut down and anxiety takes over, fear takes over. You start to feel inferior. You start to feel immobile. You feel maybe inadequate, overwhelmed. You're living in fear. You're living in worry. Your heart rate is elevated and you feel like you are just doing that. If you are that person, then today this podcast is for you. And I'm going to share my personal journey since we have come back from our holiday and how I've dealt with that, really. So stay tuned. So if you're out walking, keep walking. If you're at home, you may want to take some notes. All right. So today's episode, emotional flooding. Do you know what that means? Like, what exactly is emotional flooding? So we're going to explain that. Then I'm potentially going to share a story somewhere along the line. I don't know where, and I'm going to try to stay on track. Then I'm going to share with you some of the strategies that I feel will best support you if you're going through this right now. And I just want you to remember that today is based on my experience, and we all have different experiences and we all look through different lenses. So my intention today is not necessarily to trigger people, but to give you the tools necessary to help you get through something that may be really challenging and really confronting and really scary for you right now. That's what my goal is today.
That's awesome.
All right, so let's start with what actually is emotional flooding, Sam? And I'm going to take a drink because my anxiety just was like, whoo. Okay.
So emotional flooding, it's often referred to as being overwhelmed with emotions or by emotions. It's a common human experience. We've all had it, a complete feeling of overwhelm, and where you basically, it's like a tidal wave of emotions that just leaves you feeling completely out of control.
I really like that. It's like a tidal wave. It's not like a little lake or a mill pond. It's a freaking tidal wave. That's what we're talking about today.
But why does it happen, I guess, is the question, right? And I think there's like three main reasons why you might have a tidal wave of emotions hit you. It's usually three main things. It could be lots of other little ones, but these are the three top things. And what it does is it completely floods your brain with emotions when these things happen to you.
So maybe we should talk about that. Like, what is flooding, and then we can give, potentially give examples. Yeah. So I think that's good. All right, let's do. When we experience emotional flooding, a few things are happening in our brain, and a lot of people don't get this. So we want to give you a little bit of science, but really we need to dumb it down, because we don't want to overwhelm people, but we want to give you an idea of what's actually happening in the brain when this happens. So we have a strong strong emotional switch, clear thinking gets hard, and we have a chemical reaction. So those are the three things that are actually happening in our brain. So we're going to give you a brief description of all of them without getting too technical. We're going to keep shit simple today, because this is a great topic that we really want to get some clarity around, some certainty around, and start taking our control and our power back in areas that we can control.
Yeah. So we've got strong emotional switch. What does that mean? So basically, a part of our brain called the amygdala gets really active. And it's like an alarm system that makes us feel intense emotions like fear, anger, and very quickly.
And even sadness. And I'm trying to think about that. So my natural default is actually anger. Sam's is sadness.
Yeah.
So when we get flooded with emotion, we can go into that panic. Yeah, we can go into that panic state, right? We feel frustrated, and we can feel threatened, and so it's that fight flight response. But it does happen. The most important thing is the amygdala gets activated and we respond quickly. Like the emotions are coming in quick.
Yeah.
So they're like,
so boom. It's like when you pick up the phone and somebody tells you something that you didn't want to hear, and you're like, whoo, and you can just feel that flood in your body straight away. And that's the amygdala having a very fast response. It's a what do you call it?
System.
It's a reactional response.
Yeah.
So there's no thinking about how you feel it in that moment. It's just how your body responds.
It's like a holy shit. Yeah. Like, the blood can drain from you. Whew.
And the second one is the clear thinking gets hard. Right. So
this is really important, because people don't understand this one, right? Another part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which helps us think clearly and make really smart choices, it actually gets taken over by really strong chemicals. So we're actually going to struggle to think clearly, and this is the important thing, and make decisions. I'm going to put my hand up right now, and I'm going to say I become more reactive than proactive.
Can I say that you make decisions, but quite often you make bad decisions in the moment. So you struggle to make good decisions because you're not thinking the way you should.
Because it's like a chemical invasion going on in there. Like your brain is just like, right? So you can't think clearly. Like you're in a fight or flight response. And most people don't understand that. So it's normal if you're not able to make decisions. It's normal if you're not able to articulate yourself. So if you're in the middle of a domestic, like, and you're verbally having to go at each other, and you think, they say something and you get triggered by that, then, the amygdala's going, we're in fight or flight mode, and we're like acting quickly, and thinking clearly gets really challenging. And you want to speak, but you actually can't. Or you speak so much that you say things that you regret. All right, and the third one, a chemical reaction.
Chemical reaction. Our brain releases special chemicals that make our body react to emotions. So these chemicals can make your heart race, your muscles tense up, your breathing rate changes. It's like your body is getting ready to deal with something intense. So it's a physical response to something you've heard. So your brain hears it. You have a massive release of chemicals in your body, and your body is now ready to go, ready to fight, ready to collapse, ready to whatever. It's ready. And you probably most often notice it with breathing, because generally you notice your heart rate goes up and your breathing gets maybe a little bit shallow, like you fast breathe. It's not often that when you're stressed, you take long, slow, deep breaths. So it's a physical response.
That's what actually, what's happening is your body, your brain, everything's changing due to chemicals, due to hormone levels also changing. Like, it's just, you're going into almost a shutdown mode. And maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you've had some really upsetting news. Maybe you've been in a situation where, you've been confronted and you weren't ready to be confronted. Maybe you have had your children react in a certain way. Maybe you've had family members act in a certain way. And maybe you can relate to this. And if you can, we want you to know that you're not alone. This is a normal response. So the normal response is exactly what we just spoke about. And every single person on the planet goes through this. So let's see what creates it.
Yeah. So what are they? Like I said before, there were like 3 really common scenarios where your brain might flood with emotions. So like 1, triggered memories. So you might have remembered something. Number 2, unexpected news. That's a goodie. And number 3, high stress environments. So if we look at the triggered memories, sometimes an event or a situation that you're in at the time can trigger memories from the past. And basically these memories in the past that you may have thought that you'd already moved on from and that you already passed it. But getting into that situation and having that memory, it's tied to really strong emotions. And then that whole emotional thing starts to resurface. And then you suddenly get that same feeling of overwhelm and those same emotions that you had back when it happened, or when in that past experience.
And one of the things that I help women deal with is, it is basically like trigger or trauma work, is we don't know what we don't know until we do. And so some people are talking through a situation that may have happened the previous week, and then they're pretty irate, or they're angry, or they're sad, or they're upset, and they don't know why. And that's because if we've had a situation in the past and we haven't dealt with that, that emotion has actually been stored in the body. So we're actually holding on to that emotion. And when someone else has says something similar, or has the same action or same response, that is going to be a trigger for us. So I want to share that with you, because we want to sort of think about moving in this direction of helping enlighten other people around some stuff to help with work around triggering, and what does that mean, and how do you work with it. So if this is something that you're interested in, please leave us a comment on the YouTube channel, because we would love to go deeper in this, and we'd love to be able to share and explain this more. But today, what I'm going to leave you with when it comes to triggered memories is, when you do the work, the trigger goes away. When you do the work. So instead of moving away and thinking, oh my gosh, this is really scary and I can't cope, and we shut down and we move into just flop mode, I want you to think about this. And again, we're just a little bit digressing here, is be grateful for the opportunity to know that there's still some work for us to do. And this has certainly come up for me in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, unexpected news. Whew, let me tell you. Okay.
So it's just that, I mean, you've had it done before. You receive unexpected and distressing news, and your brain will flood with maybe fear, anxiety, or sadness as you try to process and make sense of the information you've heard. That's one of those instant kind of emotional floodings that you'd get. Those chemicals suddenly go in your brain.
And I wanted to share with you my story that happened. So we got back from our wonderful holiday. I was feeling relaxed, energized. So some people know, some people don't. Like, I do have a chronic liver condition, and I think it's since November, I've been back on weekly blood tests, which is a good thing in one respect and not so good in another thing. So before we went away on holiday, I've been on weekly blood tests since November. And the day that I left, I was like, yay, no blood tests for 6 weeks. This is going to be great. Like, I was excited. And we went away, had an amazing time, and I noticed that my anxiety was going down. And Sam, you noticed a change in my behavior.
Yeah, way less stress, way more just fun-loving, just going out and doing things, not overthinking things, just having fun, just generally
living in the moment.
Just being normal, like how you normally would be, I guess. And it's like normal behavior, back to the normal.
Yeah, back to normal. Yeah. And I wasn't aware of what was happening until one day it seems like, babe, you're just like so relaxed. This is amazing. Like, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. And I stopped and thought about it, and I thought, I haven't had to check my blood test. I haven't had to get a blood test this week, and I haven't had to wait. Like, getting the blood test is one thing. So I have a little bit of anxiety around that. The second thing is then waiting for my blood test to arrive. And then the third thing in the week is waiting for my specialist to ring me. So
trigger.
Yeah, trigger.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was trigger.
Yeah.
And then, of course, me checking my blood tests, because I get all my blood tests sent to me, so I'm aware before the specialist is ringing me regarding them. So on the Monday, we got back and feeling really good, and I waited the first week, right? I thought, I'm not going to bother getting my blood tests. I'm feeling really good. I'm energized. I had a catch-up call, a session with my coach, and we actually unpacked this, and I really wanted to share this with you because I wanted to be transparent, because so many people are like, shit, you got your shit together, and how do you cope with a chronic disease, and how are you doing this? I sometimes don't. Like, shit's real. And I don't like to share that with a lot of people, because what you think about, you bring about. What you speak about, you bring about. But I also want to be that person that is really honest to let everyone know that shit does go bad. And sometimes I'm not coping. And sometimes I do get the bad news. And sometimes I do go underground. And sometimes I do become immobilized. Sometimes I'm extremely reactive, just like everybody else. So I thought today just sharing this story may help people understand that what they're going through is actually okay. So I had a coaching session with my coach, and we unpacked it and realized that I didn't want to go back into that highly anxious state. And I was giving my power away by trying to control something that was actually outside of my control. So we made a call that I wasn't going to get the blood test sent to me anymore. And I thought, I can do this. It was bloody hard, but I did it. And then when I went to get my lab test results, I went to get my blood test at the end of the week, because I delayed it till Friday. The lady, they know me so well in there. So beautiful shout out to my lab result people in Glendine here. And she's like, automatically puts it in the email. She says, I've already put the code in there. And I'm like, and I'm like, my anxiety started to lift, because I was like, I don't need to know. And I didn't know. I don't need to know. So I was starting to, again, the flooding was starting to happen. And I thought, I'm not going to tell her, because I didn't want to tell her that it was creating anxiety. I had shame around that, right? Because I think, oh, you've got to have your shit together. You don't have to have your shit together, by the way, but that's what I was thinking at that particular time. I didn't want to feel judged. I didn't want to feel like people didn't have my shit together. Trust me, they're not thinking that. It was all in my head. So I got in the car and I was like, I said to Sam, okay, they've actually sent me the blood test results. We'll get that tonight or tomorrow. I didn't get the code, so we're not going to access it. And then I'm sitting in the car because I'm thinking, I need to access it. And there was a huge part of me that wanted certainty around that, right? Because for 3 years, I've monitored my bloods. And we've gone from 3 times a week down to weekly, down to 2 weekly to monthly. And then just, because my blood started to elevate in November, we've gone back to weekly. So we've had several hundred blood tests in the last 3 years, sorry. So super heightened, relax, super heightened, relax, super heightened, relax. So I haven't, I think dysregulated nervous system around it, to be honest. That's what I think's happened. There's the trigger. So bloods came through, right, on the Monday. I didn't know about it. Sam said the bloods are on. I was like, yep, cool, can't access them.
No trigger.
No trigger, go. Have the weekend off. Don't even stress about it. And I was feeling great, so I wasn't worried. Specialist rings me on Monday morning. Haven't spoken to him now for 7 weeks. And this is me. I don't want to say the name, but hi, because we're like on first name basis. Like, that's how cool we are. I'm not sure he thinks it's cool. But anyway, and he said, you've got my attention, Ursh. And I just thought he was taking the piss. I thought, he's missed me. I'm back in the country. And he's like, where have you been? That's the type of thing that I was thinking he was doing, right? Because obviously I'm feeling good, and, I've had my blood test, and, no reason for alarm. And he said, you've got my attention, and are you sitting down? And when he last told me, are you sitting down, it was some pretty traumatic news, right? And he said, is Sam with you? So what do you think is happening to me right now? So all of these emotional things are happening. So the flooding starts, the amygdala. It gets really active. What happens? I've moved into, holy shit, this is scary shit, right? Like when he doesn't speak much, I'm like, oof. And then he proceeded to tell me, a couple of things which were very alarming. My blood markers had gone up 400%. I'm not allowed to leave the country. He's going to put me on medication that's dangerous for my heart and my kidneys. And he was coming across in a tone of fear, which escalated my fear. And I said to him, but dude, I'm feeling good. He said, well, the good news is you've had a great holiday, but you're not allowed to leave the country. So I automatically went into
there were multiple things going on here. How dare you tell me I'm not allowed to leave the country? But fear, complete fear, shut down. Fear.
So anything that he said after that, because he always says, like when he's changing my meds, is Sam there? Because he knows I'm in flooding mode. And so I can't think properly. I don't know what questions to ask, and I can't language what I need. Because remember, clear thinking gets hard. So I automatically just collapsed and sitting right here, took the call. Sam was at work. I'm alone, which doesn't often happen when the specialist rings. And I just went into complete shutdown. My shoulders collapsed. My heart rate was elevated. I felt like I was either going to burst into tears or I was going to faint. Those were the two responses. And I'm just sitting here and I'm practicing my breath and I'm just thinking, you can breathe this, just breathe this, just breathe this. You've got this, you've got this. And I started my tapping and I was like, you are safe, you are safe, you are safe. My brain did not feel safe. It didn't feel safe. So I went into panic, I went into anxiety, and I went into fear. So he just started rattling off stuff, and I just grabbed my iPad at the time and I just autoed him because I knew I was starting to flood. I knew I couldn't comprehend. I couldn't stop him in his, he was on a mission and he's like, and I'm just like, you've lost me on, you can't leave the country. I'm still stuck there because my brain stopped. So I autoed, which means I audioed the message so that I could get all the information I needed and I could give that to Sam at a later time because I knew that I wasn't available emotionally to listen. So I'm curious, where in your life has that happened to you? So where in your life have you been stopped in your tracks? Because I want you to know that if you have recently been through that, or if you can remember an episode where that's happened to you, you're not alone. In fact, it's more common than you think. Most people, including myself, just feel very uncomfortable sharing it. Most people, like myself, prefer to shut that down. Most people, like myself, prefer to hide. Most people prefer to either numb or run or completely shut down. So I want you to know that if you've experienced that and you have had escalated fear or panic or shutdown or collapse or cry, it's 100% okay. It's not about blame, shame, or complain. It's about you doing the best that you can do in that particular time. So however you coped with that was the best thing that you could have done. And I want you to take this moment right now to celebrate and acknowledge you. Just celebrate and acknowledge the courage that you had to deal with. Maybe it was unexpected news, like mine was unexpected news, right? The other one is you may have had a high stress environment. Like you could have been in a high stress environment, whether you're at work or maybe you're in a relationship, and due to external factors, you can flood our brain. We flood our brain with stress hormones. So it's making it difficult to manage our emotions effectively. So maybe you've been in a situation where you've had an argument with your partner. Maybe you found out your partner's cheated on you. Maybe you've had an incident with your children, and maybe, they've been expelled from school. Maybe you've had an incident with a best friend. and something traumatic has happened to them or a family member or to you. So it could be a high stress environment that's brought this emotional flooding up. It could be
just like with work related, you could
work.
be suddenly been told you got a deadline of 4 o'clock to complete something really massive, and you know that to do that is almost impossible, and have a massive flood that you won't be able to deliver.
You may be feeling inadequate, and you're feeling worried, and you're feeling really overwhelmed and frightened. And that escalates to the point where you feel immobile and you can't actually comprehend. And as we spoke about, you know, those things that actually happen is like the, what was I saying?
The amygdala.
The amygdala. So we have a strong emotional switch. We can't think clearly, and we have a chemical reaction. And if that has been happening to you, or that has happened to you, number one, I want to say I'm really sorry. Because I know for me, it was scary as fuck, and I'm not going to lie about it. Like, even, you know, it's taken me 3 weeks to even be able to process that and do my own internal journey about this and keep myself safe, you know, through practices that I've been implementing every day. I want you to know that you're not alone. That's really important for me. It's when people are going through this, when flooding happens and it continues to flood and it doesn't just go away, I want you to know that I feel you and that I see you. And if at any time you want to reach out to me, I'm here for you. So moving on from that.
Yeah, like what are some of the strategies that you've used?
Yeah,
so she's got lots of really good strategies, excuse me, that she uses to help to sort of navigate the overwhelming emotions. Because this has been a cycle for the last 3 years around medication, etc. There's like 4 things that you actually do regularly, and maybe share that with everybody.
And ladies, this has been a journey for me. So I am not the master at this. Like, I mess shit up all the time. And one of the favorite things I love saying with me and my clients is I'm clunky as fuck. I'm not an expert. I'm just like everybody else out there, trying to do the best that I can and navigate what I'm going through as best I can. And one of the things that I really wanted to celebrate myself for is, I guess once the call was finished, I had a coaching client within 15 minutes. And I thought, this is my first response is I can't coach. I just can't, like, right now I'm shutting down. I just can't do that. And I can't. And so I quickly rang Sam, and I just said to her, babe, I need a 15-minute debrief, reframe. I've got a coaching client in 15 minutes. I'm going to stretch her out for half an hour, and I just need to offload. I've spoken to the specialist, and it's not the news that we wanted to hear today. And so now, of course, who's triggered? Sam's now triggered, right?
Wait.
Okay. And she's at work, which is, you know, and normally I wouldn't trigger her like that at work. And also knowing that Sam is fully capable. So Sam's quite logical based. So she comes, you know, medical, asks the right questions and knows that she's there to advocate for me. So thank you for that, honey. So and I'll give you the 3 actually, because we just went out and on, right? So number 1 is mindful and grounding techniques. Number 2 is emotional regulating practices. Number 3 is reframing. And number 4, I'm going to share with you the affirmation that I have on my mirror that used to be downstairs. And then we flooded. I forgot to move it upstairs. When we flooded, I didn't move it. And now I need it again. And that's okay, because I have the tools. So I'm going to share them with you. So mindfulness and grounding techniques. So it involves staying present in the moment, right? So we're observing our emotions without judgment. And this is really important because I've been a bully. I've bullied myself thinking that I should have my shit together. I bully myself and shame myself so that it prevents me from taking action. And what I say to myself and what I've said to myself over my many years of existence is actually really disgusting. So we say, you should be able to cope. Why haven't you got your shit together? You just need to do this. And why can't you do that? And you always mess this shit up. Really? Stop fucking complaining. There's people out there that are worse than you. So number one is, when flooding happens, and I'm not saying that you can always do this, is please be mindful of not judging yourself in the height of the moment. Grounding techniques such as focusing on breath. So one of the things I do is I tap. That's the first thing I do. I just use my 2 fingers. I am safe. I am safe. Tap the head. I am safe. I am safe. And I keep saying that we're going to do one on this emotional. Yeah. We will come back and do a full one on that. So the first thing I did as soon as I hang up was like, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. The second thing is focusing on your breath, knowing that when we're flooding, our breath starts to get really shallow. And that can cause tingling in your fingers. It can cause lightheadedness in your head. So I'm just going to encourage you to look at box breathing of 3 breaths or 4 breaths in, hold for 4, and then breathe out for 4. And then hold for 4. And doing 4 rounds of box breathing will actually balance your nervous system, right? So that's the thing that straight away I just went into my tapping, and straight away I went into my breath. Now my breath might look like this: 1, 2, 3, hold, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And because I do Wim Hof breathing every day, I was able to, by the 4th round, get to a point where I was starting to lessen the chemicals in my brain and create clarity and calm in my brain. So everything wasn't racing. Was I still living in fear? Yes. Was I still scared? Yes. Was I still anxious? You fucking bet I was, right? However, I wanted to be able to self-regulate so that I could show up for my client. All right. Emotional regulation practices. Learning to identify and label our emotions can create distance between us and the overwhelming feelings. So I wanted to share with you one of the things that I do with my clients is, instead of saying I am, I take a step back and I say, Ish is feeling highly anxious right now. What are you going to say?
Ish is.
Yeah, Ish is.
I am.
So I'm detaching from that. Sam's obviously heard me do this a long time. Ish is feeling anxious right now. Ish is feeling really messed up right now. Ish is really fucked off right now.
I see Sam is really hungry right now, quite a lot.
So whatever you need to say to detach is a great way, is to remove the emotion from you rather than making the emotion you. Instead of owning that emotion, is separate, create space between you and the emotion. Ish is really worried right now. Ish is really concerned right now. Ish is really happy right now. Ish is really confident right now. Whatever emotions are coming up for you. The other thing that, and I didn't do this, was journaling. Talking to a friend, like I said to you, emotionally regulating for me used to mean shutting down and just like this. And now the first thing I do is, instead of keeping it in my head, as scary as it is, I open my heart and share it with Sam. So this has been a process like before, because that requires a hell of a lot of vulnerability. And I'm the type of person that I've got to have my shit together. I'm my own warrior. I can do this alone, whatever it takes, I'm there. And I've had to learn over the last 3 years that the stuff that goes in my head is pretty crazy. There's some badass stories that I make up along the way. And I need to get it out of my head, because if I don't, my head makes me dead, right? Like, it's crazy. So sometimes I can tell Sam about it quickly.
Yeah.
And then other times.
Yeah, actually getting quicker and quicker. The more you practice it, that's the thing. It might be hard at the beginning if you haven't done it before, and you might have to build up the courage to do it. But the more you do it, the quicker you're able to do it. So like Ish ringing me straight away. And usually now it's only a matter of sort of minutes to maximum an hour, really, when you have not have to, but you share what's happening.
I think there's been an episode in the last couple of weeks where it's been days, but that's okay because it used to be like weeks or months, or I'd be so embarrassed to tell her what I was thinking for fear of judgment. I would just shut down and clam up, thinking, get your shit together, get your shit together, get your shit together. And now, because I've got Sam to speak to, and she opens a very safe space for me. Please remember that not everybody is worthy of your emotions and your greatness. So please be very clear on who you talk to. If you do have a coach, like my coach is now booked every week until Christmas, because I know that this is going to be a longer journey for me. So please seek professional support and make sure that you've got someone that you trust, that you know, that can handle your emotions at the time, rather than trying to shut you down. This is not the time for that. The next one is reframing. So reframing is cognitive reframing. It involves challenging negative thought patterns that contribute to emotional flooding. So I guess the reframe for me, and it happened within 12 to 24 hours, is I went into flooding for like 12, 24 hours. And I was just like, and I stayed focused on stupid things. And I can say it now, but at the time it doesn't feel stupid, right? Like I can't fly. Well, this has got to be really bad. The medication has to, it's going to have an impact on my blood pressure, and we've got to get off these tablets as quick as possible. That was his words. I'm staying with them. Okay, I can't be taking these. These are going to be really bad for me. These are really dangerous. What else is going to go wrong with me? So what was I focusing on? Because what you focus on, you attract. So in the first 24 hours or 12 hours, I was like living in a super heightened state, because all I saw was, these are the worst drugs to take, which is what he's told me, and we need to get you off these as quick as possible, but we need to attack this right now because your liver's out of control and you can't travel. So I'm like, and I'm like, look, I keep repeating the same thing. Maybe you've done the same. And then we start telling ourselves bullshit stories. We start answering our questions because our brain wants to keep us safe. So then I woke up on Tuesday morning and I was like, fuck him. I said this to Sam, didn't I? Like, excuse my French here, but this is exactly what I said. Fuck him. I'm not going to let his stress and his anxiety disrupt my day. Like, I'm just not. Like, if he doesn't want me to travel, his problem. Like, I don't see why I can't travel. If I'm going to Australia, I'll just get a blood test while I'm in Australia. That's his only concern. Now, is that his only concern? I don't even know. But I'll tell you what I do know is when I answered my own question, I said, I still can travel. I will just give him his weekly blood test, because that's what he's basing his generalization on, because he couldn't access me, couldn't get meds to me, could have stopped this happening, blah, blah, whatever. I don't even know what his story is. I didn't even want to ask, because then I'd get wrapped up in it. So I decided to reframe and make up my own story. So I started creating and interpreting, really, the situation's really bad. And I'm not saying that the situation is exactly where we want it right now, but I'm not in hospital. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I've got to take some really ugly meds at the moment that are, making my face blow up. And it's under control. Like, I'm going to be meeting with him. Things are going to be under control. I'm grateful. I'm blessed that I've got a specialist that's onto it. I'm grateful and blessed, even though these meds aren't the best right now, they're doing the job that they need to do. Like, there's so many things to be grateful for. So I started reframing, and I want you to start thinking about the same. What is the thing that you can do? What are you reliving over and over and over again? And what can you do to reframe it? And today is probably one of the first days I haven't had it on since I had the news, is I have a rubber band. And I think I shared this with you last week, right? Once my thinking starts going to blah, 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 right, I will pull that and I'll think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. I'm so grateful that we have access to free blood tests. I'm so grateful that we have different forms of medication in this country that can help with my chronic illness. I'm so grateful that my specialist has me on speed dial. That's what I'm going. Why? Because if shit goes bad, he's just going to ring me. Like, that's good. Like, let's get on top of it rather than wait for me to be going to the doctors over and over and over again and end up in hospital. Like, this is preventative. Like, at the time, yes, I'm flooding, but this is one of the techniques that I used. And did I keep going in and out of flooding? 100% yes, I did. Don't be thinking that shit got over in one simple morning. It's constantly, you have to constantly work on this, because your brain is the great trickster, and it will constantly take you to the stories that create the overwhelm and the fear, which then brings about fatigue. So the last one that I wanted to share with you, because I know this is a very long episode, right, is affirmations. And I shared this on my stories the other day. And when I first got diagnosed and my fear was extremely elevated and my panic was elevated and I was just living in fight or flight the whole time, this was one quote that I got from Louise Hay. So I put it in an A4 picture and I put it in the bathroom. And every morning I would just say this to myself. I stopped doing it, right? Because it was calm again. However, I've put it now on a post-it on my mirror. So I read it morning and night. Every time I go for pee-pee, it's there. All is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. Out of this situation, only good will come. I am safe. And for me personally, I always just say, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. And if I'm feeling highly anxious, I put my hand on the middle of my chest and I say, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. So that's the affirmation that I use. I hope you love my affirmation, because this keeps my head out of flooding and it makes me feel more grounded and more centered. And sometimes I have to say it 20 times a day. That's okay, because it beats being flooded. It beats being anxious. It beats being panic. All of those things. So I just keep coming back to it and I repeat it and I repeat it and I repeat it. So I just want to, what is it thing?
Recap.
You can recap.
Recap it.
Sorry, my speech gets like these new meds. I'm telling you, like there's lots of speech issues. There's lots of brain. So take it away.
So Usha's got some really good techniques that you can use to help with that overwhelm, flooding feeling at the emotions that you get. So number one is mindfulness and grounding techniques. So those are things like tapping and breathing stuff. Emotional regulation practices, that was, doing some journaling, talking to friends about it, reframing, so just changing the way you think of a situation, find the good, look for the gratitude, be grateful rather than be in that moment of fear. And lastly was affirmations, which she's used it all as well. And I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. Just those 3 words on their own are amazing.
And then you printed the ones for me too, that you put up in a frame on my wall. And
Usha, often she sits here whenever she's having a moment where she might be hitting that overwhelm hit, like a trigger, and hitting an overwhelm, she goes, I'm confident, I am capable, and I am courageous. And it's just reaffirming the positive things for yourself. And there was a really cool quote that I came across, which I wrote in here to share. I thought it was really well written, is when emotions flood the gates of reason, because they do, that's the whole thing, when emotions flood the gates of reason, it's our choice to build bridges or be carried away by the current. And so this, hopefully today, with her sharing her techniques and everything that she does on a daily or regular basis to help with any overwhelm, will help you to build your bridge rather than being washed downstream, because you never know where you're going to end up. And
I'm sorry if you're being carried away by the current right now, because that's a really shit place to be. It really is.
So yeah, I think that's anything else you wanted to share there today?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. If there's anyone else that that's struggling right now, please do them a huge favor and send them this podcast, because so many of us hide what we're going through for fear of judgment and fear of shame, and shame loves shadows. And it's taken me 3 weeks to share this story, and I'm still going through the flooding. And I've got a specialist face to face, and he's been ringing me every day, and he's changed my meds, doubled them. And so every time I'm getting a phone call from him, and every time the blood test is happening, I'm waiting for 2 days. It's normal. It's normal for us to flood. And however, I've started applying these techniques to take control back and take the power back. So what you focus on, you attract. What you focus on magnifies. So if we're focused on what we don't want right now, which is I don't want these blood tests, I don't want this, then we're going to bring that what I want us to focus on, and I strongly encourage you and me to focus on, is what do we want? And so every morning I'm visualizing my blood tests are coming down. I'm having extraordinary results. I'm no longer on this medication. I'm just able to come back onto a different immune blocker, and I just focus on, I'm energetic, I'm vibrant, I'm healthy, my cells are all magnificent, and my body is self-healing. So I'm very intentional about focusing on what I want, because it's very easy for me to focus on what I don't want when I'm in a super heightened mood. So thank you everyone for listening. If this was useful and you would like more information about this, or you have any questions, please, please, please reach out, because I don't want anyone to have their shame hidden right now, because shame loves shadows. Let's blow some light on that, and let's normalize what we're all going through. So remember, today, go and sprinkle some magic on someone, because you don't know who needs you today. Until next week, everybody, we've done it. Honey. We've done it. I survived. I survived. But my heart rate's still going, let me tell you.
You need to do some box breathing.
If I had time, I'd go into a meditation.
You need to do some box breathing.
I feel like if I had time right now, I'd be going to do my
meditation.
I'd be doing my Wim Hof right now. However, I'm jumping straight into my Ultimate You group, my private coaching group, and I know that after I've spent a couple of hours with these ladies, life is going to be outstanding. So,
thanks everybody.
Until next week. If you loved this episode today, like if you loved it, even if you just liked it a little bit, that would help. We would love to ask you a huge favor. Can you please, 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 a million times, please, subscribe to our channel.
Push the button below. Just push it now before you forget. Just push it. You can do it. Because not only will you never miss an episode ever again.
Never.
You'll always be there. But then you'll also help other people find us, because the more people that watch us, the more people that will get our message, and then more people will be part of our podcast. Wouldn't that be awesome?
And we can't not see you and hear you every week, can we? We just can't. So just do it. Just do it.
Just push the button.
Eat the frog. Do it now.
It's right down there.
Go do it for us. That'll be like the best present you could ever give us. Thank you.
Bye.